individual's age, gender, moral commitment, and organization. So we did find that. Again, there's also the interactive effect, like we mentioned, with moral commitment. I have there, contrary to a number of criminological deterrence studies. So criminological studies are more studies that look at just crime in general. Okay. Again, people engaging in socially deviant behavior, like there's studies out there how to prevent people from smoking marijuana, or I read one where some people refuse to stand during the national anthem. So things like socially deviant behaviors. And a lot of those studies, it seems that perceived certainty of getting caught was a stronger influence than severity. Whereas this study in the IS security context, and we're looking at IS misuse, found that severity had a stronger impact than certainty. So it's really contrary to, in this domain, the results are a little bit different than a lot of the regular criminological studies. Again, I put there possibly due to a history of light sentences for computer crimes. This is just a thought on my part. There's generally people that have engaged in a lot of these computer crimes, we haven't seen them really been hardcore punished. I even know people may have heard of Kevin Mitnick, who's considered one of the more famous hackers, and his claim to fame was he used social engineering techniques. And he hacked into a lot of large organizations, and I know his sentence was fairly significant. It was 5 years in federal prison, and now he has a consulting company. He's doing pretty well for himself. He's written a couple books. What's that?
He made it up.
Yeah, he's a reformed hacker, right? So he wasn't punished too severely. So maybe the whole idea of getting caught isn't necessarily perceived as entirely risky because the punishment hasn't been all that great if you're assumed you're just caught. So again, making people believe that the punishment is going to be a little bit more severe might be, this data would suggest, might be a better way to try to reduce these insider incidents. Anybody else have a thought maybe on why these results show that perceived severity of sanctions was stronger than certainty of sanctions beyond the one I just put up there? No?
When did you make your survey?
Oh,
how long ago?
the survey was done actually in 2006, the beginning, January of 2006. So it's a few years since the data has been collected.
What would be your expectation if you would do it today? Because all of these things, they are the matter of perception, and perception is affected by reality and environment. Now, what would you expect if you do the same survey nowadays? What would you get, especially in the industries which are affected economically, severely? Those industries which are affected severely economically and a lot of layoffs and stuff, what would they expect to get with all of these perceptions?
I still think in terms of the things I'm looking at there, like perceived certainty and severity, I think we'd probably get similar results. Do you agree?
I don't think so, because the environment changes perceptions.
So you're thinking maybe because the environment has, with the economic downturn and things like that, people will not feel that.
Because a lot of people, they thought they did the right thing, and they got kicked out. And a lot of people, they did a bad thing, and they got rewarded. So that's some of the perception in the society nowadays. At least if you.
It's an interesting thought, right? So.
But they're not getting kicked out necessarily because of misuse. They're getting maybe kicked out because the economy's tanking, right? And they're getting downsized. So they'd have to make that point that the downsizing is the reason that the economy's taking a hit and they're losing their jobs or experiencing sanctions because of their maybe risky behaviors.
As I said, it depends on when they look at their environments, what happened to the people around them, and then what happened to the whole society.
So you're saying people, maybe they're so down on things are so bad that the perceived risk, and even if they perceive there's a high risk of getting caught and punished severely, which in this case in an organizational environment could be something as much as getting fired, they just don't care. Could be.
As I said, what's your expectation? I'm not an expert in that area.
My expectation is, in terms of these factors in the specific environment of the organization, I still think I'd get similar results because I'm not really looking at too many external factors. But it would be interesting. Thanks.
To your original question, which is why PS would have a larger influence, is because even if I think something is wrong to do, or if I think it's right, whichever way, and I know I'm going to get caught, if the punishment is less than what I think the reward for doing it will be, then I'm probably going to do it.
Right.
And so if there's a higher, if there's a larger punishment, then the reward doesn't balance out. And so the basic idea is that people are more likely to do it if the punishment is less.
And that kind of also, you talked about interactive effects. I could look for an interactive effect between the PC and the PS, right? So one doesn't matter unless there's the other, basically, right? Yeah, and that's another way. I haven't done that with that data, but
Yeah, severe potential outcome, but no way of getting caught. Doesn't matter either.
yeah. So basically, I mean, you could say those things aren't mutually exclusive, right?
Yeah.
They depend on each other.
I mean, even if the certainty of me getting caught is 100%, if the punishment is nothing but a
Is
slap on
zero.
the wrist,
Then that's going to have zero
Yeah,
relationship.
exactly.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yep. Couple questions.
Did your structural equation model, did it, when you did the analysis, did it indicate that you should consider a path there between those two?
I did, at one point I did a path between, I did a path from certainty to severity, seeing if certainty has a direct influence on severity, and it did. And one way, yeah. I did not do the interactive effect. To tell you the truth, I can't remember why. But I think I was trying to stick with the original classic version of deterrence theory. But I think I'm going to go back and relook at that data, because intuitively that makes sense. I mean, what you're all saying is, yeah, obviously one depends on the other. So that might be kind of a nice little addition to the way deterrence theory was originally conceptualized.
Is your covariance matrix available for this?
I can give it to you. Yeah, I don't have it on the slides.
Or, well, in the paper that you, is this coming out, is this being published?
Yeah, the paper was actually just published in March, and I can email a copy to anyone if you like. Again, please do send me an email if you'd like a copy. I'll send it to you. It's jdarcy1@nd.edu. Okay, because it just came out in March, so I don't think the paper is yet available if you do like a library search. But I'll be happy to send it to you. It's just a PDF file.
For those of you who are not, who are all within ACM and Artificial Explorer, the online library that John is talking about is from Informs. So if you go to Informs, you can have access to this paper. Maybe not now, but in a few months.
But I think you have to.
Without notes, I will go to Informs.
I think you have to be a member too.
I think we get it by
Oh, do you?
pretty
Some informs, not all. Some informs journals, not all.
But either way, I can give you a free copy.
Is this an ISR?
Yes,
Yes.
it's Information Systems Research. It was this March 2009. It's in. And this research this was basically, at least a piece of my PhD dissertation that I did, this survey. So,
Did you look, did you test for like mediation effects for the security countermeasures on IS misuse? In other words, maybe computer monitoring has a direct effect on IS misuse. There's some other thing going on that explains.
right, that's a good question, and I did mention that in the paper. Yeah, I did test for mediation, and none of these relationships between security policy, CETA program, and monitoring were direct with misuse. They're mediated by the certainty and severity. Okay, so I did test for mediation. That was actually something that, in getting it published, the review team asked me to do that as well. Makes sense.
One thing, I'm not certain whether you have the data to support such a evaluation, but whether moral commitment varies depending on security policy. So for example, there's been some studies showing that allowing people to do some personal work on their work computers actually results in increased productivity. And I'm wondering if security policies that allow more
A little more lenient.
a little more lenient may actually lead to higher moral commitment. And I don't know if you could evaluate that in comparison with the company's security policies and or see if there's a difference between different organizations that's marked for some of the scenarios as opposed to others.
I could probably get access to their specific security policies.
Yeah,
and
because
look at them.
because it'd be interesting if a policy was allowed by a particular company, then they may perceive that as okay and show up very differently
Yeah, I mean, if anything, it may influence just people's overall satisfaction as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that